Okay, here we go. I call this meeting of the North Adams City Council to order for June 23rd, 2020. This meeting is being recorded pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law and the Governor's March 15, 2020 order imposing strict limitation on the number of people that may gather in one place. This meeting of the North Adams City Council will be conducted remotely with no in-person attendance of members of the public permitted. This meeting can be viewed live on Northern Berkshire Community Television and will be posted to their website as soon as possible. Will the clerk please take the roll?
Blackmer?
Here.
Bona?
Here.
Martin?
Here.
Hopkins?
Here.
Forrest?
He signifies here.
Lamb?
Sorry. Here.
Wilson? Okay.
Councilor Wilkinson is here.
Yes.
And we have a quorum. Thank you. Please stand for a moment of silence. And the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic
for which it stands,
one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty
and justice for all.
Thank you all. Approval of the minutes of our June 9, 2020 meeting. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Next on our agenda is normally a hearing of visitors. I do not see anybody in our chat room, but they will certainly have an option to, I'm sorry, go ahead.
There appears to be 3 folks in there. At least I'm seeing them on my end.
Yeah, I'm seeing 2 as well.
Okay, hang on a second.
I see Debbie, but then also 2 on top of that. Yeah.
You're correct. I apologize. I have yes, okay. Would any of those in the participant or the attendees room care to say anything at this point? I'm not seeing any response. Thank you. First order of business tonight, paper number 9513-28, an ordinance amending Chapter 7, Section 7-11 of the revised ordinances of the City of North Adams, entitled Public Services, Disposal of Waste at the Transfer Station, last in City Council June 9th. Voted to refer to Public Services and postpone to tonight's meeting. Motion to pass to a second reading and publish as required by law is in order.
So moved.
Second.
Further discussion on this? Councilor Bona.
Yeah, so the Public Service Committee met and there was several questions that came up, nothing of really of any anything too new, but just to go over some things that Mr. Canales highlighted, that 3/4 of the cost of the transfer station is removing the trash. Council does approve the price per pound, which is what we would be approving, which then changes the price per bag and the scale price. So, so those are connected to when we change the price per pound. There's no changes to the sticker cost. This would create an average increase for a family of $22.19 per year, and that's based off of national averages of what they say a family of 4 would use. Councilor Blackmer did ask about if it's covering its cost, and the revenues increased for 2020 $50,000, and the expenses went up $30,000. So at this point, we're actually making $20,000 over expenses. The city is losing money on recycling. Counselor Harpen questioned about miscellaneous expenses, and Canales did say that they would be renaming that in the future to building, vehicle, and scale maintenance to show a better understanding of what those expenses are. And they also do include pest control, but the majority of that has to do with scale and building and vehicle. So if the scale goes down, you could be talking a few $1,000s right there. At this point, the city prefers to keep the scale as it allows small business contractors and homeowners to bring up building demolition material. The city does not feel it should completely join the Northern Berkshire Solid Waste District at this time, which has come up in the past as an option. And the reason is that the city is already doing a number of the services that they could provide, but they are looking to do a cooperative effort. And that would be with the Northern Berkshire Solid Waste doing something called a Green Team, which is helping educate students in the community on being more recycling and environmental. And North Adams then in return would help them with disposal of large items like mattresses and furniture. Blackmere did ask about solar waste cans that used to be downtown Canales. Couldn't remember those, but said he would research it. And Harpen also asked about times for stickers. And as of right now, you can get stickers Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday at the skating rink from 8 a.m. to 1 p.m. And then at the end, the committee did recommend to accept this ordinance increase. So there we have it.
Very good. Questions or discussion? Hearing none, we have a motion and a second to pass to a second reading and publish as required by law. Any further discussion before we call for a vote? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? It is unanimous. Thank you very much. Paper 11,883, an ordinance amending Chapter 2, Section 2-27 of the Revised Ordinances Schedule A, Classification Plan FY 2021, passed in City Council June 9th and voted to pass to a second reading and post as required by law. A motion to adopt the ordinance is in order.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none. It is a roll call vote.
Blackmer,
Yes.
Mona,
Yes.
Harpen,
Yes.
Forrest,
Yes.
Lamb,
Yes.
Wilkinson,
Yes.
Yes. And the motion passes. Thank you all. Paper 11,883-1, ordinance amending Chapter 2, Section 2-28A, Schedule B, Compensation Plan FY 2021, passed in City Council June 9th of 2020 and voted to pass to a second reading and post as required by law. Again, motion to adopt the ordinance is in order.
Move to adopt.
So moved.
We have a motion and a second from Councilors Blackmer and LaForest. Discussion, Councilor Harpen.
I just have a question as I was going through the proposed budget from the mayor. I noticed the information technology director. And when I looked it up under the classification plan, it is under number 26 or S-26A. So when I look up S-26A, it doesn't have any figures for year 1, 2, and 3, and it only has a figure for year 4. So I'm not sure how that works if you have an IT director that hasn't been there for 4 years. But it looks like, you know, because last year we had 2 assistant MIS directors, and that pay scale in the first year is 57,000, and then the second year it jumps up to 63. And now, so one of those employees jumped up to the IT director of 80,000. That's a $23,000 jump. So I'm just, you know, that's a big jump in my eyes. And if a person hasn't been there for 4 years, I'm wondering if we should put something in there for the first 3 years.
Sure. I'm going to ask that you let Mike in as well, because he will probably have to correct the certainly inaccurate things I'm about to say. Last year, we had a retirement of a long-serving person in the MIS role. So at that time, we did appoint one of the 2 assistant IT directors as the IT director for the city. That was the assumption when we brought those positions in, that at one point, one of the positions would move into the IT director role when that became vacant. As far as the placement, that's the way that this has been set up, so that effectively the starting step is that point in the plan. So there are no other levels at that position. So the first step on that particular salary ladder is the one that you see. And so when that individual became the IT director, that was the place that their salary was set.
Councillor LaForest.
So just following up on Councillor Harpen's question and the mayor's comment, through the chair to the mayor. So to clarify, your words, long-serving MIS director reached the salary she left the position at, and the individual who was employed by the city for 1 year jumped from around, I don't have the numbers in front of me, $60,000-ish to an $80,000 salary after 1 year.
Because they moved from, oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, sorry, and the second part of the question is, in the budget, I believe we're budgeting for a director and an assistant. So that seems like, to me, and again, I don't have the numbers right in front of me, that we're in fact budgeting much more for that office, and that'll end my question.
So we brought in two positions in the assistant and we had a full-time director. So so a year ago, at the time of that retirement, we had 3 positions in that office. We had 2 now we have 2. I would have to go back and look at the specific number for the prior year. I don't think it is unreasonable that we would have a CIO for the city, which is what that position is at that salary level. The fact that the person was promoted from assistant to director, I think is not the way to look at it. It's the who is in that position. Whether we had hired someone into that position or promoted someone into that position, the salary for CIO for the city is at that level.
If I can.
Thank you, Mike.
Yeah, go ahead, Mr. Canales.
So last year, with the long-time retirement, long-time employee, when Kathy Wall retired, we brought in 2 individuals, very high-skilled individuals. They both agreed to take the position as assistants while we were looking at which one would become the MIS director. Within a few months, one of the 2 individuals that we did hire ended up receiving a significant pay increase and went to work for General Dynamics as in their IT department, leaving us with the other candidate who was, like I said, there were 2 at the same time we brought together who we thought were both qualified to be the director. And for a while there, we had 2 outstanding individuals. Right now, we have one person that is definitely a high-level individual, and then we have another person who we brought in as more of a technician. He's doing excellent work for us, but he's definitely at a different level. So as the mayor said, I think it's very appropriate for a position like that in a field that is very, very competitive, that we would have to have a salary at that level. And for some reason, our scale has always had a number of positions that start at different years as their starting rate. And not sure why, but it's been that way ever since I've been here and well before.
So that speaks to the need, I'm sorry to interrupt, that speaks to the need to adjust this compensation plan in a more comprehensive way. But if you look at that page that has the S26A position, there are a number that begin in the step four level. And I think, again, I can't speak to the history on that. One of the reasons that we were able to do this last year, and I would again have to refresh myself on the timeline, is because we did have funding for the assistant position, and because it was a partial year, when we made the hire, we were able to split the salary across two positions.
Counselor Blackmer and then Counselor Harpen.
That position has also, historically, we've had like outside help, a consultant who we are then paying at a top dollar to augment the services we had. And also, I would say in this day and age, over the last couple of years, the technology and the expertise that we need as a municipal government, with the liabilities of being ransomed or anything that can come in, is just, it's an investment in not having a breach or other situation. And these positions command the salaries that they have. It's just the expertise that they have, the training they have, the limited pool that we're pulling from, particularly in this area, just means, that's the salary, that's what it is. And I'm comfortable with, and I know there's several positions that start at step 4, step 3, step 5. I don't have the CNC in front of me because I'd already looked through it. So I think it's important to keep that in mind when we're going forward and all the things that we're doing. Some of the programs and technology we have is, I think, somewhat outdated, and we're going to need to update and move that stuff. And we need the expertise in that department to help us do that.
Thank you. Counselor Harpen.
Yeah, I would definitely agree. I think it's a highly skilled labor force for anybody that would be in this position, and it is highly competitive. I certainly agree with that as well. My question was that it just seemed like such a large jump from one year to the next. And my other issue is, just as the mayor has stated, that we really need to look at these salaries in this compensation plan, because we've found other issues, in previous years as well. When I look at this S-26A, it starts in year 4 and it starts at 80,940. And then it has a couple different year levels, 5 to 9 years, 10 to 14 years, 15 to 19 years, goes all the way up to 25 to 29 years. And in that 25 to 29 year grouping, the total amount to be made is $82,701. So this gentleman that was hired in 29 years is only going to get a raise to 82,000. So, it's just, if it is highly competitive, we really, really need to start rethinking some of these compensation plans in grade levels, because we're not going to be able to keep these people that are in these positions.
Counselor Harpen. I'm sorry, Counselor Blackmer.
The other thing to take into account is that if there were to be COLAs throughout the next several years, all of those wages would go up, obviously. But yes, you're right. A $2,000 difference for 29 years seems a little off. There's a lot of the positions that do that.
All right. Further discussion, Counselor Lamb.
Yeah, I would agree. I think a full review of the compensation plan is definitely key, and figuring out why there's that gap, if we can chase down the history, I think would be important, but then also trying to backtrack and fill those first 3 years on some of those positions, because I do see there's a few. I think the other thing too here is that there's a catch and a retain piece, right? So there's the recruitment piece where we need to have a decently high number for some of these very skilled positions, especially if we're pulling talent from outside the area into the Berkshires. And then it's the retention piece, to the point that you made, Councilor Harpen, about only really a couple $1,000 raise over 25 years is really nothing. That doesn't even cover cost of living when you look at percentages each year. So I think there's we may have nailed down the hook, in terms of being able to recruit someone into that position, but the retention piece is going to have to be looked at when we look at the full scaling of all of our positions, especially any that do require certain levels of management or skill sets that are hard to chase down, either based on antiquated technology or just the need to be agile and pivot as things go forward. So I think I agree that there's a lot of review and analysis to be done, both in what we're providing right now in terms of compensation, but then also how do you then retain those people going forward?
Thanks. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we have a motion and a second to adopt the ordinance, and it's a roll call vote.
Wagner,
Yes.
Bona,
Bona?
Yes.
Harpen,
Yes.
LaForest,
Yes.
Ham,
Yes.
Wilkinson,
Yes.
Hopkins,
Yes. The motion passes. I think we're being joined as an attendee by Councillor Moulton. Is that correct?
Yes.
Hi there.
Oh.
We are moving on to paper 11,885-1, the mayor's communication number 32-1, requesting the appointment of Michael Obasahan to the North Adams Board of License for a term to expire June 1, 2021, fulfilling the unexpired term of Jeffrey Palucci. Motion to confirm the appointments in order.
So moved.
Second.
Councillor Blackmer and Councillor Wilkinson, second. Discussion. Councillor LaForest and then Councillor Blackmer.
Well, first of all, most of us know Mr. Obasahan, and he is a stellar individual, and I'm happy to see his name here. And I certainly am happy to vote for him to be active in government. And I was one of the councilors who helped encourage him to run for city council last term. And unfortunately, he opted not to run. However, through the chair to the mayor, in reviewing these, the rules in our ordinances and carrying over into Mass General Law, two things stuck out that aren't addressed here. Mass General Law indicates that on the regulatory boards, they need to be balanced politically, meaning there needs to be at least one Democrat, one Republican, and then the third person can be from either party, which I thought was interesting. So my first question is, was that taken into account in this appointment? And then second, the same laws also say that the mayor appoints the chair of that board. And so my question is, are we appointing, or you rather, I'm sorry, are you, Mr. Mayor, appointing Mr. Obasahan to be the chair of the License Commission as a new member?
I'll take the second question first. No. I'll take the first question second. I did not consider that.
Councillor Blackmer had a question, and then Councillor Harpen.
My comment was also more in to clarify the vote last week. That was not a vote against, obviously, against Mr. Obasahan. That it was about the kind of the point of order, the rules, and obviously most of us supported him. I served with him on the MCLA board. I think he's a really good candidate. I think he will bring a perspective that we need on that particular commission. So I fully support him, and just wanted to clarify that the reason that we didn't vote last week was because we were voting based on procedure, which, given the fact that there was a meeting the next week and we still had a quorum of that commission, it wasn't the emergency that I personally feel. And I consistently vote against suspension of rules unless it's, had there been no meeting for 3 weeks, or had there only been one commission member, then I would have full-heartedly voted for the suspension of rules and obviously for the candidate.
Thanks. Councillor Harpen, I saw your hand up, and then Councillor LaForest.
Yeah, so I guess I just need clarification. If he is appointed tonight, is he going to be the chair of the board because he is replacing someone that was the chair of the board? I'm just not sure how that's going to work.
No, I will not be appointing Mr. Obasahan as chair of the board.
Okay, thank you.
Counselor LaForest.
So Councilor Harpen asked part of my question, and as far as procedure goes, the vacancy is for the chairman, or the chair, I should say. So procedurally, can we confirm the appointment for the non-chair to the chair's slot?
All I know is that we're appointing a member to the board. It doesn't specify that it's the chairman of the board.
But that's the vacancy. So we would, in effect, be appointing a fourth person to a 3-member board.
I don't have an answer to that. Mayor?
I'm thinking my way through this. I don't believe that's the case. I believe we're appointing a member, and it would then be incumbent upon me to appoint the chair of that committee.
That's the way I would have thought it would have gone. Counselor Lamb and then Counselor Blackmer.
Yeah, I mean, I think this has been noted enough, but I just need to state it on here as well. I think Mr. Obasahan is a fantastic candidate for this. He brings some really great intellectual capacity, knowledge, and awareness. He's also a younger member of our community, so he brings some other information to the table as well. He is also on our DEI working group, so I'm excited to see him take on multiple roles, even though we weren't able to convince him to run for council last time around. He's definitely putting his he's up to his knees, at least at this point, in terms of being involved in going-ons in the city. To the point on the particular party of the individuals, I'd be really interested, and I'm absolutely voting 100% for Michael tonight, but I think we should look at what that means for that committee, and we may have to do some assessment on the back end there to figure out what that looks like, at least for filling future vacancies that may come up. I don't know what that would mean for existing members, but that could be an important piece to pin down going forward. And then, I certainly have faith in the mayor's ability to appoint one of the 4 members, assuming Mr. Obasahan is appointed tonight. I fully believe that you're able to appoint from within that body to fill the chair position. So I think that's the next step going forward, and I think that it will help that group move ahead.
Counselor Blackmer.
Having been on for a few years, not recently, obviously, but we didn't vote for the chair or to fill the position. We voted for a member to serve on that board and other boards. And in this case, obviously the chair has frequently been the late Mr. Bellucci. But I think that we're here, we're voting for a member, and then the next step is what's done with the commission.
Counselor LaForest.
I'm going to vote no, and I'm just voting no for procedural reasons. I believe Mike Obasahan is a fantastic candidate. I would like to see him active in our city government and hopefully on the city council in the next term or in a future term. But I think we're making a procedural error here. The vacancy is the chair's position. So I think in effect we're creating a 4th slot, which isn't indicated in our ordinances or Mass General Law, and then we're going to fill it from the back end, and I don't think that's good procedure.
I'll just say I don't believe we're filling a specific position. I've seen positions filled on other boards, and the board self-elects or the mayor may appoint a chair.
The language was pretty clear in Mass General Law, but I'm not going to belabor the point any further.
Is there further discussion? We have a motion and a second to confirm the appointment. All those in favor signify by saying aye or raising your hand, or both.
Aye.
Aye.
Councilor Moulton, how do you vote?
No.
Councilor, and are there other nays?
I vote no.
I'm really just confused on the process. It has nothing to do with the candidate. I would love to have him on any board or part of the city's capacity. I'm just I would like clarification, that's all.
Well, the vote is then 5-3, is that correct, Madam Clerk? 5-3 and the motion passes. Paper 11,886, Mayor's Communication number 33, acceptance of CARES Act funds. Without objection, we will file the communication and move to the order, paper 11,886, authorizing the mayor to accept funding in the amount of $1,137,716 from the CARES Act Coronavirus Relief Fund pursuant to Mass General Laws, Chapter 44, Section 53A. Motion to adopt the order is in order. Councillor Lamb makes the motion. Councillor Blackmer seconds. Discussion. Mayor, do you want to walk us through it first, or should we take questions?
It's fairly straightforward. The communication and order are both fairly redundant. You also have in your packet the communication from Secretary Heffernan about the distribution of the CARES Act or Coronavirus Relief Fund money. It has very specific uses for what it can be used for, and also some restrictions for what it may not be used for. And specifically, the most salient of the restrictions for what it may not be used for is revenue relief. So as we think about budget planning for fiscal year 21 and the potential for lost revenue, we are not able to, at this point, prospectively use CARES Act money as a substitute for lost revenue. I understand there is advocacy afoot at the state and federal levels that might enable us to change that, and we will be very careful in our spending of those funds in order to preserve them against that use. But as with anything, we're asking the council to accept the distribution, or rather the allocation of the funding to North Adams from this tranche of federal money, which will allow us to backfill expenses related to our COVID-19 response. That's in addition to things we may be eligible through FEMA. So we have been tracking our COVID-19 expenses since the beginning of March, and will continue to do so. And some of the things that we have identified as immediate areas for reimbursement are things like signage, cleaning supplies, and PPE, and then technology for the city and for the school district as part of their response. And we're looking for some of that into fiscal year 21 as well. But again, right now we're just talking about the acceptance of the allocation so that we can draw against it.
All right, thank you. Councillor Harpen and then Councillor Wilkinson.
Yeah, thank you. As I was reading through, I just kind of skimmed through some of the details that you had sent us, and it basically says that there needs to be a couple of accounts that are set up, some expense accounts, and so those accounts will be hit as you're using those funds. So, that's just basic accounting. I just want to find out, are those accounts going to be something that's part of our monthly report that we can review, that we get on a monthly basis?
We can provide that information.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Wilkinson.
My questions were answered. Thank you.
Further discussion? Seeing none, we have a motion and a second, and it's a roll call vote.
Blackmer,
Yes.
Mona,
Yes.
Harpen,
Yes.
Forrest,
Yes.
Ham,
Yes.
Wilkinson,
Yes.
Hopkins.
Yes, and we also have Councillor Moulton online now,
I apologize. Councilor Moulton,
Yes.
and it's unanimous. Thank you all very much. Committee reports or minutes. Councillor Harpen.
Okay, yeah. So the Finance Committee had 3 meetings scheduled this week on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. And we were going to go into detail into the budget that the mayor had proposed. And you know, I think we've all spent a lot of time reviewing it and had plenty of questions going into these meetings. But what happened on Monday afternoon was the mayor received a bulletin from DLS, the Division of Local Services, basically stating that they were going to be delivering our cherry sheets and our Chapter 70 funds for July. And depending on whether or not they're going to have more information in July, they may also do the same thing in August. So after discussing this with the mayor, it was actually the mayor's idea that we move to a 1/12 budget. So we went ahead and had the finance meeting at 6 o'clock, and the finance committee had unanimously voted to send this, the proposed budget that the mayor had initially sent us, send that back and recommend that he produce a 1/12 budget, which he agrees to. So that was our recommendation, and it was unanimous last night.
Terrific. Actually, what does that mean for our schedule to approve a budget going forward? Can anybody answer that, Mayor?
Yes, I can answer it. Can I answer it completely and accurately at this point? No, we are reaching out to Department of Revenue and Division of Local Services. Having not done this before, we want to just make sure we have all of the procedural steps taken care of before we bring something forward, just to make sure I understand whether the budget is being brought forward informationally or for the council to act upon. I will be getting that information hopefully by tomorrow, and then requesting, one more special meeting to introduce the 1/12 budget for the month of July.
Thank you. Any other committee reports? Next on the agenda is licenses. We have none before us. Open forum. If there's anyone in the room who cares to speak.
Point of order.
Yeah.
So we're off the agenda. So what the mayor's concerns have been jumped over, I believe, and councilor's concerns. So was that intended to be during committee reports?
No, councilor concerns will follow the mayor's concerns according to my agenda. I believe we made that change early this year, did we not?
I'm just going by the written agenda for this evening.
Yeah.
So I'll wait. Thank you.
Oh yeah. No, you'll absolutely have a chance to speak. So anyway, seeing no one in the room with a hand waving, mayor's concerns before we move to councilor concerns.
No, I'm good. The one thing I would say is just I appreciate the council's flexibility as we've made some pivots through this budget process. The guidance that came through from the Division of Local Services yesterday was really the clearest indication that we've seen since the conversation I had with the Finance Committee back at the end of April, as far as what we can anticipate. So Governor Baker filed a July budget last week, and that's moving its way through. I know that the House had acted on it. I don't know what the final disposition is in the Senate. I believe it was either about to be passed or has been passed, and that gives us some guidance for the next 2 months. And that made the 1/12 budget scenario seem the most appropriate. Although let's be clear, whether we're talking about a 1/12 budget or whether we're talking about a fully passed budget at a level fund that we knew that we were going to need to come back and address, the basic mechanic doesn't change, which is this is a budget that will continue to be reviewed.
Very good, thank you.
Thank you.
Next, liaison updates or councilor concerns. Councilor LaForest.
The mayor disappeared. So I just very quickly wanted to thank the mayor and administration, Mr. Canales and others, and Councilor Harpen and the members of the Finance Committee for their extensive work on the 2021 budget and the smart move to a 1/12 budget. I wasn't able to attend or listen to last night's meeting live. So thank you. And second, I was hoping the mayor could speak to this. The restrictions regarding COVID precautions have lessened socially. And I think it's time that council meet in council chambers. Again, there's sufficient space to meet the 6-foot requirements. The technology is available to do so. We've proven that members of the community, although no one spoke, and I hope that's not a glitch, and people missed out on an opportunity to address the council. But I think also that we have not voted to meet in this manner, and we were never mandated to do so by the governor's orders. So I believe, if we're going to continue to do this, that the council should vote as to where we're going and how we're going to meet, so that we can maximize participation, especially at a time when we're dealing with a budget of such uncertainty that will have significant impacts on our ability to provide services for public safety and education and public services, and presumably administratively at City Hall.
I'll just follow up by saying I agree. I'd like to get back to in-person meetings. The glitches keep coming up with technology available at City Hall, whether or not it has sufficient bandwidth for all of us to be streaming video, and how many of us would then drop out. I think there's only one hardwired connection in this room, which is an issue. One other issue has been, and you've heard it from time to time, is audio. So we would, and if we wanted to continue to make this feed available on Zoom for people without cable television, then we would need to be on laptops and wearing earbuds, because otherwise the audio gets messed up in a big way. Just my thoughts. Who had their hand up next? I'm
Me.
sorry. Councilor Blackmer.
I just don't, I want to bring a point of order. I don't think we should be deliberating this. I think we should put it on the agenda before we go down the rabbit hole and I'll start talking about it.
Okay.
It's a home rule. It's not a, I don't think it needs to be on the agenda. It's a house rule.
Councilor Harpen.
Yeah, I just want to mention, I had some confusion myself because I did the finance committee meeting yesterday, and I was doing it both for the TV station. I was doing it on Zoom, so I wasn't really sure what the capacity would be as far as having other members of the finance committee in council chambers. So we didn't have any members there. And there was a lot of confusion of how it was all going to work, and I wasn't really sure either. And so when I had spoke to Peter, who runs Northern Berkshire Community Television, he did mention to me he thought that it was possible to be able to have members of the city council in the room and also do the Zoom meeting at the same time. So I'm just passing that information along as it was presented to me.
Okay, thank you. Great job last night on the meeting. I know it's a little tricky.
It is.
These things. Councilor Lamb.
To Councilor Blackman's point, I think we might be going down a bit of a rabbit hole, but it is a home rule discussion, so I believe that we can have this. We do have to vote on it at a certain point, so we shouldn't make a decision one way or another here. That being said, I would say if we are able to have the live stream of the full chambers put on Zoom, because the problem that we're going to run into is that only one other person from the community will be able to come into the chambers at 6 feet distance from one another. And so the people would not be able to actually participate in the same fashion that they had historically. However, if we're able to actually have this on Zoom where people can still attend there and can raise their hand and can participate in that fashion, I think that that's a hybrid that might be pursuable. My biggest concern here is access. And I know it might sound counterintuitive that being online would improve access, but right now, people from anywhere, if they are from North Adams and they live anywhere in the world right now or are traveling, they could be attending this meeting and participating in their local government if they so chose. That's not the case if they have to actually be in chambers. Additionally, a huge number of people don't have cable access. They don't have the station at home, so they can't watch it live currently unless it's online, which these have been, which is great. So I think hybridizing between an in-person meeting of the councilors, if that's a concern for discussion pieces, but also having the access to Zoom, since we will not be able to allow the public to sit in those chambers with us at that time. I think that that's something that might be worth investigating before we make any hard decisions one way or another. So there should be multiple options for us to discuss.
All right, thanks. Councilor Wilkinson and then Councilor Bona.
If we're going to continue doing it this way, I think we need to publicize more how the public can access this. I think one of the problems tonight was maybe lack of participation, because other than if you watched the finance committee meeting last night or heard about it by word of mouth, you had no idea that you had access to this meeting tonight. I think we need to get it out there a little bit more so the public can have access.
Thanks, Councilor Bono. You'll need to unmute, please.
Instead of it being put on an agenda, a committee could also take it up prior to the next meeting. So that's just a thought. It could go to general government, possibly to discuss it. Personally, I'd like to get back in chambers, and I've questioned all along our interpretation of what we call our chamber, a room. So I'm not sure if they've actually given measurements of the room, but our chamber is about 2,000 square feet, which is bigger than some houses. And if it was a restaurant right now, it could probably sit about 50 to 70 people with tables of 6 spaced out 6 feet apart. So, you know, and also offices are now at 50% capacity, and they can also fit a lot more than 12 people in that room if it was an office. So, but again, we're sort of deliberating this, and I would suggest if we want to try to get it resolved before the next meeting, maybe it can go to a committee for more discussion. The couple other things that are low on the priority list, but they came up from residents that have questioned them this week. And I did speak with them, mayor on one, and again, it's not a big deal, but it's happening that people will question is that we don't have flowers down Main Street yet. It is something that typically gets budgeted. I did question the mayor if it was something we were passing on this year, and his response back was that it's the school's decision when that's going to happen. And as I'm guessing it goes through the greenhouses. So I don't have an answer if we're going to have flowers or not. The second thing is I had a resident today ask me if picnic tables are going to be going up at Windsor Lake. And I did speak with Public Works Superintendent, and he said once the mayor gives the go ahead. So other parks have already put them out. So just a couple things in case councilors do get questioned on that. Those are the answers that I got. Thank you.
Thanks, Councilor LaForest, and then Councilor Harpen. Did you have your hand up a minute?
I probably did. So I'm just sitting here wondering, you know, we are paying an information specialist $80,000 a year. This is not the first time I've raised this concern, and there must be a way to have, you know, 10 Ethernet cables placed in city council chambers. So that, you know, argument respectfully is a little silly. There should have been a resolution to this prior to this conversation.
Councilor Harpen.
Yeah, again, I hate to repeat myself, but again, the television station did say it was doable both for the Zoom meeting that we had last night and to have all the counselors in the room having a meeting. They were capable of doing both. So this is what I was told. So maybe this is something that we need to pursue. My second question, another counselor concern that I had, and I think I mentioned at the last meeting, was about Windsor Lake as well. It seems like it's a really hot spot this year because, you know, people are, it's a recreational area and, you know, that's where people are going and they're able to go outside and they certainly are spending a lot of time up Windsor Lake. It's always very, very busy. I'm getting quite a few calls from the neighbors about parking. You know, people are parking on the street again. So I think I am going to bring something into the next meeting about parking on Kemp Ave and also the street. I'm not sure if it's Kemp or Bradley extension that goes up and around the lake where the camps are. I got calls from them as well this week. You know, they're having a hard time getting through there. So if there was an emergency or someone had to, you know, get rescued from the lake on that part of the lake, they do have a very hard time doing it. So I'm just, you know, spreading the word again for people, you know, that are going up there to just be considerate of where you're parking. There's a huge parking lot in Windsor Lake. There's plenty of room to park there. So that's my concern. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Blackmer.
I just wanted to, I really think we should put this on the agenda for the whole council. I think the committee is just going to go down and bring up some report and everybody's going to say what they have to say. So I think we should put it on either then, I don't know if we're having a special meeting next Tuesday. I think that's still kind of on everybody's radar. If not then the next meeting, it should be on the agenda about the
You're
remote and how we're gonna meet.
How we're meeting, okay.
Yeah,
Um,
and his home rule, regardless or not, we are making and discussing a topic that the public is interested in and would want to participate in that discussion. That is why you put it on the agenda in as much detail as possible. So maybe we don't technically have to do it, but we're definitely not, it's kind of breaking the spirit of what we should be doing.
At any rate, I'm hearing what I perceive to be a majority of you wishing to be back in council chambers. In the immediate, I will see what we can do about that. Any further councilor concerns? Seeing none. We have no correspondence to consider tonight, so motion to adjourn is in order.
So moved.
We have a motion and a second. Nice headgear.
Thank you.
All those in favor of adjournment?
Aye.
Any opposed?